Okay, now let's talk about another topic that was very prevalent at SEC meetings, and that is SEC breakaway, either making your own rules
Mm-hmm.
or maybe making your own playoff or this type of stuff. We've talked about it a couple of times on the show, but David, you talked to a bunch of people there. Can you explain what this is and why they're talking about it?
Well, first off, it's very stupid. Let's start there. But let's talk about the biggest reason why I think you get here is that there is a lot of frustration in the SEC about a lack of consistency about rules. And we've talked, Chris, like what rules are you talking about? Eligibility. We'll start there. I think the SEC, if they could go 5 for 5 tomorrow, they probably would. Salary cap. I think that you're not going to hear a lot of people talk about this publicly, but I think they know, especially considering how things have gone the last 3 years. They don't particularly want to get into a spending contest with the Michigans and Ohio States and the rest of the Big Tens of the world, the Indianas. It has not gone well for them. And if you just look at how America is made and how America looks, Big Ten country, a little bit more money than there is in the South. That has been an issue. And so a salary cap, I think the SEC would probably be okay with that, which is kind of ironic considering the last 100 years of college football and how that's gone. And so they want to have their own rules. And so the problem that you run into now is the on the field stuff. If the SEC, like Georgia President Jerry Moorhead is out here talking about, well, if we just did Georgia and Alabama and called that the national championship, I think it could do well. That's a patently ridiculous idea, but what we're talking about is financial solvency. Let's agree to some rules in how we fund other sports and how our athletic departments operate that makes things a little bit more sustainable, because we can't really agree with the Big Ten on what things are looking like. And we feel like we're playing a totally different sport than a lot of the group of six, the Big 12, the ACC, all that other stuff. And so there's this idea that, like, oh, we could break away and just do our own thing. I do think that's a financially solvent option. I think that is a deeply dystopian option for the sport of college football. I think it's a stupid idea that the fans wouldn't actually like. But if you're running an athletic department or you're running a university, I can see how it is attractive. And right now, the idea that this ever happens, it's not going to happen. But the idea that there's real discussion happening, which Scott Strickland, Florida's athletic director, said that there was real informal discussion about it during the week at meetings, is interesting. For all the reasons I said, it sucks for a lot of those reasons, but I can see how it's attractive to the people that are in charge of the bottom line for those schools and those athletic departments.
So here's the case for it. The case is, hey, we can't enforce a lot of these rules. If the conferences can make their own rules and enforce them, it's not an antitrust violation because it's just a conference. There are competing conferences. There's competition, so it's not antitrust. The SEC used to have that rule that you said at the beginning of the show. You can't transfer within the SEC. Well, it used to be the rule. And
well, you could, but you would lose a year of eligibility. And I will say credit to our colleague, Joe Rexroad, who compared this whole idea to the Gambino crime family trying to create a new FBI to investigate themselves.
Well, that brings to my next point. So I've been saying for weeks on the show, and everybody in the Big 12 seemed to agree with me. They were just kind of bewildered at what this would even mean. David, do you remember who it was that sued to allow JUCO players to get an extra year of extra eligibility?
Was it somebody in Mississippi?
It was Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. David.
Oh, the recent one, yes.
David, do you remember which state's attorney general sued over allowing NIL conversations to happen with recruits?
Now, that would be the states of Tennessee and Virginia, Chris.
That would be the state of Tennessee and Virginia. Do you remember who the quarterback who said that the NCAA was not looking out for the best well-being of its athletes, therefore he deserved another year of eligibility, and changed how people sue the NCAA?
I don't remember which one we're talking about.
That was Trinidad Chambliss, who was at Ole Miss. You had Joey Aguilar sue as well. David, do you remember which basketball program tried to get a former professional player to come back and play for them, and actually did play for them for a couple of games?
Well, that list is growing. That was the University of Alabama. Now we'll
it was the University of Alabama
trying to do similar things.
Now LSU's trying. Are you sensing a trend here? All of those people and places are kind of located in the southeastern part of the country. So my first question with all of this SEC breakaway stuff is, who's gonna? You guys are the problem more than anybody else. That's not to say other people don't sue. We'll get to Brendan Sorsby, but the SEC has been suing to get around these rules more than anybody else. What confidence do you have that everyone's even going to agree to new rules in the first place? That's the one thing.
This is an interesting dichotomy because the operative question around college sports, this is at SEC meetings, it was a very big question as well, is do we want to be governed? And Brian Seeley, who the commissioners hired to run the College Sports Commission, which is basically the enforcement arm of trying to get their hands around NIL and rev share, talked to reporters. And I asked him, provided that actions speak louder than words, what do you believe the answer to that question is? And he kind of laughed and kind of offered some word salad. But what was left unsaid was people say they want to be governed. They say they want rules. And then when those rules negatively impact their ability to compete, then they run to a judge, which has kind of been a running joke for a while in college sports. Eli Drinkwitz, we aren't going to talk punts on the show. We don't have time. But Eli Drinkwitz, about this punt dispute between the Big Ten and the SEC, basically said maybe the Big Ten can just find a local judge that lets them punt out of whatever formation they have. It's to that point where it's like a funny joke, but also it's like kind of true. It's like whatever dumb thing happens that's clearly against the rules, you can just get a judge locally who doesn't want people beating down his door to fight for you and say, actually, this is what's going to happen.
It's why Iowa State AD Jamie Pollard said 2 weeks ago, the SEC and Big Ten should just break off and do their own thing if they don't want to follow the rules. And he reiterated that to me when we spoke last week at Big 12 meetings. Now, I will add, the Big 12 did announce last week that all of its schools are signing the CSC agreement. Basically, we agree to follow the rules and let you enforce us. They are, I think, the first power conference to do that. And it is notable.
I have a question about this.
Because you had said Texas Tech didn't want to do it. I double checked and they're on board with it now.
Yeah. They were pretty clear about drawing a line in the sand and saying, we're not going to do this. And so I was very surprised to see that. And then I kind of did some reading about it and Texas Tech wasn't omitted. Do you know where did the change of heart come from? Because I saw that and I was kind of taken aback that I was like, this feels like the ACC's vibes. Texas Tech, I don't know what changed for them.
I asked Yormark why it changed, and he just said, continue to have really good discussions, and we all agreed that it's all better for everybody. I would add, though, this probably doesn't mean anything because we're probably not going to have everybody sign on to agree to it anyway, so maybe it's just for show, but they did that. Yormark also did say they do expect to make adjustments with the CSC. The commissioners will meet later this month, and whether that is raising thresholds or lowering thresholds for things that get reviewed, basically finding ways to speed up the process. The SEC and the Big Ten are most upset that it's taking so long for deals to get approved. I think 75% of the money that is still waiting to be approved is from those two conferences. They just want it to move faster. And so the Big 12 and the ACC are probably, but you have to have all four of them agree to something. So the SEC and Big 12 ACC and Big 12 will probably say, all right, let's raise some numbers here, do some things to help speed some stuff get through because we don't want you to break away. But not totally completely, which brings me back to my other point on the SEC. You can go make your own rules, but if you make rules that are going to disadvantage you relative to the Big Ten or somebody else, you're going to lose players to those conferences. And I don't think the SEC is going to want to do that either. So I don't know what this is supposed to look like. You can enact, the reason they don't do that interconference transfer rule anymore is because it was a disadvantage to them, is what it became. And so you think you're going to go make your own rules. If the Big Ten's going to say, we won't penalize anybody for that, kids are going to go to the Big Ten or something like that. So all in all, they're really talking about it. Nobody seems to really think it makes any actual sense.